Alright friend, I am pumped to bring you this video today because I've gotten to partner with X-Laser, probably the top company in lasers here in the US, especially on the entry level. And today, we're going to talk about lasers, how you can use them in your show, how you can be safe doing it because that's like super duper important, and how to get started. Now, if you're like a lot of people in lighting, lasers are kind of like a magical voodoo thing that you've seen on shows. If you're like me, anytime you're on a show that has lasers on it, there was always a laser guy. Unless it was, just a really small laser like a DJ style laser. But if you saw a laser effect that was cool, you had a laser guy and he had laser computers or laser consoles and special laser cables, and you didn't really understand what he did or how he did it, but at the end of the day, he was the laser guy and he did the lasers. Today, that's not really the case anymore. While you still need to be qualified to run a laser, it's never been easier to run lasers as a lighting person. And X-Laser, who I mentioned has helped me with this video, is been on the forefront for that for a number of years. And so I want to talk about what are lasers, how do I use them, and what laser should I choose, and then I'm just going to give you a demo of using this laser that's actually above me, which is a Aurora Caliente from X-Laser, because I want you to see how this thing works. What in the world is a laser? Well, if you look up a definition, you'll be able to find something that looks like this. Great. And that's from NASA. We'll put the link in the source as well as on the screen. But the basic gist is that a laser is a super bright, commonly these days LED, that is focused very, very, very tightly. And when it's focused that tightly, it makes this super tiny beam of light that, for as low power of light that it is, as low wattage, looks incredibly bright and vivid, right? We've all seen a laser show probably in our life and seen lasers on live concerts. They're becoming more and more common. And so you're probably aware of what a laser is. The next question that often comes up is, okay, I know what a laser is. I've seen them on shows. I want them on my show. Are they safe to use, or how do I use them safely? And the answer to this is really twofold. Lasers are dangerous. The camera I'm looking in could easily be damaged if I pointed this laser that's above my head into that lens. Okay, I would have to send that camera back to Canon, and it would probably cost almost the cost of the whole camera to fix it. Seriously. So these things are dangerous to cameras, and if I got some radiation in my eye and stared into the laser beam, it would affect me as well, or if it hit my skin, it could affect me. And of course, what I've got here is fairly entry level. There's much more powerful stuff out there, and that stuff's even more dangerous. So if it's so dangerous, how can we use these things? Well, the great thing about lasers is they're focused, right? Unlike me, a lot of times, they stay really, really focused on what they're doing and projecting that super narrow beam of light. And so this means that as long as you're not pointing them at people, and there's rules that we're going to go over that really help you to not do this, as long as you don't hit people with the lasers, you can use them. That's why for most shows, most of the time, you see lasers, they're projecting in the air. They're going over people's heads because, well, that's how we use them safely. Here in the US, if we want to talk about lasers and legality, we really see two types of lasers. There's two types you're going to see out there, right? There's kind of the DJ style laser lights, and then there's a professional more style laser like the ones from X-Laser, but I gotta tell you, they don't necessarily break the bank. Like they've got lasers, of course, that cost more than my cars, right? Not that I have expensive cars, but they're expensive. But they also have things much more at the entry level that's closer to the cost of a moving light. Okay, so professional doesn't mean it has to break the bank. But then there's these DJ style ones, right? And lasers, just like college students, are organized into classes. And these classes they generally describe the amount of power that the laser has. Now, I had an opportunity to talk with Adam from X-Laser, and I've also done some research on my own that goes into how they measure this power and how it's rated. And just like the output from moving lights and LEDs, the specs that are given and measured by the manufacturers can be skewed. So do keep that in mind, that a number you see of a particular milliwatt level, especially on more entry level things, may not be 100% accurate. But regardless, we've got these DJ type and these more professional type. Now, the DJ type are technically classified as a class 3R. And 3R is a subset of the class 3 because there's 4 levels of classes, but there's more than 4 classes. And in 3R, it basically tells us that there's less than 5 milliwatts of laser energy at a certain space. That is how they measure it. And so if you want to go deep into that, there's things you can read about. You can read about from the FDA, and we'll have some more links below. But not getting off track, when you get above 3R, you get to 3B. Why didn't they put the letters in order? I don't know. You get to 3B, you're getting a more powerful laser. And you're going to see that difference in a larger room or in a stage where there's other lights on. If you're in a pitch black room, truth be told, if you put a 3R up next to a 3B, you're not going to see a massive difference. Over distance, if it shoots 50 or 100 feet or more, you're going to see that difference. You're going to see the 3B outshine the 3R. On the legal side of things is where 3B versus 3R gets really interesting. A 3R can technically be used without a variance from the FDA. Okay, so this is going to be pretty much any laser that you buy that's from brands like Chauvet or Blizzard or ADJ or even Elation. These lasers that these companies make are generally classified as 3R and generally fit within those power requirements. Now, in talking with people in the industry, truth be told, sometimes these 3R lasers may get close to 3B in their power output. And, it's an area where, after talking with professionals in the industry, I personally don't feel comfortable running a 3R laser, okay, without a variance. Because it's just so close to the line that I don't want to be associated with that. Just think about it for a second. If something did happen and the FDA came and checked out your show or checked it out afterwards, and they determined that the laser that you had, which was classified, say, as a 3R, and I'm making this up. This isn't legal advice or anything like that. But say they came and measured it and they decided it was really a 3B. Or maybe they said it was above the power rating, whatever. You'd have some serious trouble, and there are serious fines if you break the laser laws. So, is it likely to happen? Probably not. But at the same time, if you have a variance in place, you then have the permit to run a Class 3B or a Class 4 laser, which is all that we're going to see in entertainment. Class 4 is actually the highest. And so, what's a variance? Well, a variance is actually a really simple document, a really simple piece of paper that is the FDA permitting you or a company to operate a laser safely. Okay? So it's kind of like a driver's license or, and I'm not trying to be political here, a gun permit. Okay? These things allow you to operate a car or to have and use a gun. But you can still go and break the law with your car. You can still go and break the law with a gun. You can still go and hurt people with a car. You could still go and get sued while using your car, even as a licensed driver. The difference being that if you go out and hurt someone and you're not a licensed driver, the penalty's going to be that much worse, right? So we always want to be on the right side of the law. And so the variance allows you to do this and allows you to run your laser legally. How do you get a variance? Well, it's actually a pretty simple process through the FDA. Now, I say that with a caveat. It's actually not that simple. The FDA is really, with lasers, their main focus is the main focus of where lasers get used the most. And lasers don't get used the most on stage shows. They get used in commercial applications in health and, things like that, medical treatments, industrial cutting, and all kinds of stuff. Pipe fitting, crazy stuff like that, that isn't at all related to what we do in entertainment. And so their rule books and their processes are not really geared towards us. And that's where X-Laser actually helps a lot as well. I literally, probably about 10 years ago, first heard about their process and then have gone through it this past year to get my variance. And so all you have to do with X-Laser, if you're using their laser, you get a new one or a used one, is they have a process to walk you through and guide you through the paperwork and then help you submit it to the FDA. And let me tell you, from looking at the FDA paperwork myself and then going through the process with X-Laser, it's a night and day difference. I would not have figured out how to do it right. They walk you through the process. So it's not difficult and it's not expensive. Okay? And once you have that variance, then you're good to operate it safely. You've got your driver's license. So if you're considering using lasers in your show, just do it. Now, variances, all you really have to do to keep up on your variance is you have to say happy birthday to me. What? Yes, I know that's a cheesy joke, but each year you need to just give an annual report of the shows you've done, where you've done them, and what date they were. And you just fill out a very simple report. Again, X-Laser's got a template that walks you through it. And once you fill out this report, you just submit it by September 1st to the FDA. And that is my birthday. While we're on the topic of variances and laser classes, I do want to clear up one more thing. When we're looking at lasers, you can buy, say you go to eBay or somewhere or AliExpress, you can buy no-name lasers that are brought straight across the water from China. But I highly, highly suggest you don't ever do that, okay? For a laser to be used legally in the US, even if you have a variance, it needs to be cleared by the FDA. And these companies, simply put, don't do that. Not only that, people like X-Laser buy these lasers and check them. And guess what? They find out that the power ratings often are completely wrong, that there's other safety measures that are completely ignored, and these are completely unsafe products. There's a reason why they're a fraction of the cost of the real stuff, because they're not safe. And so if you're thinking about it, because I know people all the time go, I'm just going to buy lights from China. But this is different from buying lights from China. When I tell people that I don't like to buy lights from China, and I don't like it when people do that, it's on a copyright basis, if it's a direct copy of a light that some major brand makes. And then two, it's just a quality thing. I don't want you to buy really cheap stuff, because then soon you're going to be probably unsatisfied with it. With lasers, there's all that, but it takes it to a whole nother level, because they're not legal. So don't do that. Once you've got your variance, we can talk about safety and actually setting up our laser. In a few minutes, we're going to talk about running your laser and how to do that, how to get control of it. Can you do it from a lighting console? I don't know. I do know. But, so safety-wise, there are a number of safety rules that you need to follow with a laser. And I'm not going to go over them all here. However, I'm going to go over some of them. Okay? The very first is that the beam of your laser must be 3 meters, which is about 10 feet, above the place that any audience member can stand. Okay? And so what this basically boils down to is, hey, you've got an audience member, he raises his hand in the air and he jumps, and he's not going to be able to hit that laser beam, especially with his eyes, but also with his hand, right? Even if the guy's 7 feet tall, hopefully his vertical is not that good. And so that's the point of this rule, is that, and it's a real rule, it's not just a guideline, this is a must-do, is that you need to keep it that high above audience members. While we talk about that, I'd also like to note that this Caliente Aurora and the whole Aurora series from X-Laser, their entry-level scanning lasers, are a really great help for this, because they work horizontally and they don't scan vertically, which makes it a lot easier to set this up, right? Because if you think about it, you have to keep the laser 9 feet, or rather 3 meters, so it's closer to 10 feet, above anywhere an audience member could stand. So we've got to think to ourselves about not only the main audience area, but balconies, catwalks, windows, mirrors, anywhere that somebody could be, you've got to be above that surface, okay? And this is really, really important. And so that's why I really like this Caliente series for beginners, especially because they only go horizontally. You may need to mask the laser horizontally as well to keep it away from people, but at least it's not horizontal and vertical. Now that we've covered that, let's talk about control. This unit that I've got, the Aurora Caliente, offers DMX control directly. Now, this is the simplest type of laser you're going to find out there. Like I mentioned, the kind of DJ lighting brand lasers from people like Chauvet or Blizzard or ADJ are going to have a similar setup where you've got anywhere from about, 8 to 15 DMX channels. And within those channels, you'll see channels for, things like turning the laser on. For colors, you'll see things for different patterns, whether they're a fixed pattern or a pattern that moves. You'll see controls for the speed of those patterns and stuff like that. And you're able to get some really cool different looks out of a laser, but at the end of the day, while you can make some different laser looks, there's only so many options of what you can do. And it's only going to look so cool, okay? It's great if you're just starting out. Maybe you've got a handful of moving lights and some LEDs, and you want to add a laser to your show. This is a great option because you can add that horizontal coverage, it's pretty simple to set up, and you can worry about the safety things pretty easily and cover your bases there. Again, I mentioned a safety rule or two. There are more that you learn about when you put in your variance and when you get your variance. And you also learn these from the manual from X-Laser, okay? So I really want to be clear about that because, again, these things are dangerous if they hit people. So that's simple DMX control. It can work, honestly, if you build some presets in your console and when you set up your cues, you can set up a lot of the patterns and stuff and then set up a cue where it turns the laser on and that'll get you going, really great. But we could do better than that. And so the cool thing about a laser as opposed to a light is, especially if you have a laser that can both go horizontally and go vertically, is that this is a laser that can now make two types of effects, right? It can make scanning type effects through the air, and different aerial type effects. And it can also make graphic type effects. So as it hits the surface that it's projecting upon, it can actually draw, letters, numbers, pictures, patterns, whatever you want to see. A great example that I remember about this from my childhood is the classic Stone Mountain Laser Show in Georgia. Okay, they've been doing this for years. It's a laser show, literally on some rocks, and it's huge and it's big. It's really cool. I gotta go back sometimes. Gosh, I live in Tennessee. So you've got aerial type effects and you've got projected type effects onto a surface. And when you get into things like letters and numbers and text, DMX control is really not good for that. Because you can't define a letter in DMX control, right? You also can't define text or pictures, really. I mean, you can do gobos, and the manufacturer could load some kind of virtual gobos into the laser, and, you could get going with that. But at the end of the day, you really want to go ahead and if you want to do those pictures and stuff, you got to take it to the next level, okay? Now, when I first ran into lasers, and kind of in the history in the past, lasers use a protocol called ILDA, which is the organization that internationally really takes charge of lasers and laser safety. And so this protocol is kind of named ILDA. I don't think that's an official name. It's just a serial protocol for controlling lasers. And it uses these cables that look like those old parallel printer cables and plugs the lasers together. And the benefit of this being that when it's hooked up to a computer, you can now do graphics and all sorts of different looks like that really aren't possible via DMX control. But on the other hand, if you don't need to project graphics on surfaces and do stuff like that, then you can get a laser that's controlled by a system like X-Laser's Mercury. Okay? Now, X-Laser's Mercury is a super cool system that basically allows you to treat lasers like moving lights, okay? So you get pan and you get tilt and you get color changes and you get different movements and you can program them into any lighting console like a moving light. And so these are really cool too. And while we're not going to get deep into Mercury today, X-Laser has a lot of interesting videos on it. And let me know in the comments below, as well as like and subscribe, if you want to see more about Mercury and about lasers, because I'm all about it. And we'll talk to X-Laser, we'll get some stuff, and we'll knock it out, right? We'll teach you about it. But those are the 3 ways that you can control lasers. And like I said, it's never been easier to run lasers in a DMX control surface, because you have things like Mercury from X-Laser that translates from the DMX into something that your particular laser can understand. And you can mix types of lasers. As long as they all have Mercury, they all can be controlled kind of the same way. Okay, enough of that. Let's hook up a laser. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to plug the laser in, okay? So I'm going to plug in my DMX first, and then I'm going to plug in power. I'm not turning the laser on yet. I get the laser at my safe height. Okay, now I can turn it on. All right, so for the basics of this video, you can control this by any DMX console, right? This is a DMX controlled laser. You can control with any DMX console. In this particular instance, I'm using the Light Shark, partly because I love Onyx. I love a lot of other consoles, but the Light Shark is by far the easiest for me to build a profile really quickly for. And there wasn't one in the library for either Onyx that was really, it wasn't great because it was for an older laser, not this version. And DMX's, there wasn't one in the built-in. So I built one quick for the Light Shark. Great console, and great way to show this off. But you could use this with any console. And so first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn off the laser. I turned it on. And there's a couple things you do to turn it on. So if I go here, again, any console is going to work this way. And we're simply just going to go ahead and first turn it on. Now, there's a virtual dimmer assigned to this in the Light Shark because there's a dimmer, but no, or there's color rather, but no dimmer. This really doesn't affect anything but the color. Then we've got the strobe. That's the speed which it's going to light at, and so we're not going to worry about that right now. I could press find as well to turn the laser on, but I'm not going to. Then we got to go down here to, now we got to go here to mode. This is the key, okay? So we've got laser off. We've got auto, which is just obviously just crazy mode. We've got sound active. And there it was clapping. Bass, of course, with most sound active modes, if you've got bass heavy music, is going to have the biggest impact for you. And then we also have static patterns. We like the static patterns. And then last, there are dynamic patterns. So let's perk into the static patterns for a minute and just look at this thing and really talk about controlling it. As you can see here, as long as I keep plenty of haze in the air, or in this case, it's technically fog that I'm blowing from a little fogger, the beam looks awesome, okay? And it's in white by default, but let's go ahead and look at some of the patterns while we're here. So there's various patterns as you go through this, and it's all outlined in the manual. You can see there, I'm getting some different looks out of this thing. And so these are all things that I would advise, like I mentioned before, build your patterns, build those into palettes, and get those ready for your cues. And then you can preset those palettes, but have the mode to off. And so then when you bring that mode in with a 0-second fade, say, you're able to then have the exact pattern you wanted right away. And that's a good option. And then there's a pattern speed. So that makes this laser actually really, really useful, because you can see here, this is the Caliente Aurora, again from X-Laser. You can see here, I'm able to take the pattern and really work with these different patterns and then modify the speed of them. Now, let's just say we're doing the liquid sky here, which is kind of what this is, right? This is just basically, a pretty typical, this first one here is kind of a pretty typical scan type scenario. One of the first things I like to do is mess with the color. And so the color here, this doesn't work like LED lights, okay? So in a laser, in a particular laser like this, I think it's called a TTL scanning laser, the colors are either on full or off. And so that means if we've got a red, green, blue laser, we start with white, and then we also have red. Put a little more fog in the air there. If I didn't mention it before, then that's, fog in the air, haze is very important for aerial effects. Then we've got green. And we've got blue. Oops, did I miss blue there? Oh, that's blue. Sorry, we've got blue. This one's green, blue, then kind of a yellow, then a cyan, then a purple, then a white. And then as you go through here, there's various color chases. And this one, oh, this is so stinking cool. So you get those 7 color options, but then you also got this. I mean, look at this, a whole rainbow. And so just think about like, okay, at different parts of my show or my service, you know, when could I pop in an effect that the laser just pops out in red or in green? Of course, green's kind of a classic look. It's often the brightest for lasers. And you can see here as well, too, another laser tip is to have it go perpendicular to the viewing audience. And what I mean by that is that you you have it basically from the backstage facing out towards the audience. That usually provides the best viewing angle. It's just like haze and lights here. We can take a pause here and actually talk about the lighting rig here. In the background, we've got 2 Eliminator Par minis at full, and then right next to the laser is the Gamma Starburst Par. It's 7x18 watt, 6 color LED, and it's at full as well on that amber color. So that really gives you an idea of how much light there is in here. And so this isn't a pitch black room. That's the cool thing. If we made it pitch black, you know, it's going to make a bigger impact with the laser, right? That's harder to show on camera, of course, because it's the only light in the room. And so you can dial it, the camera specifically to that light, and it's always going to look bright on camera. But I can tell you, it looks quite cool and it looks quite good in the room here. The other thing with lasers and cameras, and X-Laser Adam told me about this, is that, you know, it's sometimes hard to get the camera to see what the eye sees with a laser, because the laser is moving so quickly and scanning so fast that sometimes it doesn't show up. It literally disappears on the camera. Your eyes blend all that speed together and it looks awesome. And so do keep that in mind, you know, when you're shooting this, or if you're looking at this and you're like, it's kind of funky, kind of stroby. It looks a lot better in person, but it does look quite good on this video as well. And so besides color, we've got a variety of things here. So we've got the mirror right here, and this is going to allow us, you can see here, to spread this beam out and play with the sizing of it. The scan rate too. This is, again, how fast this laser is scanning or how slow. Then we've also got the position, and this is pan, and this is like, okay, how wide is this thing pan? Because remember, this one doesn't tilt, but it does pan. So we can go wide, but we can also go much, much more narrow, and we can see that in the video. And so that's kind of the basics here, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more about lasers, I'm definitely going to probably follow this up just with some tips about using lasers in your lighting, because I think it's something that hasn't been covered a lot, but with people like X-Laser, you know, you can learn more than you've ever been able to before and get to be able to use lasers more often than ever before. And I think that's so cool, and I want to help people learn about it. So if you like this, subscribe, guys. Let me know in the comments below, as well as like this, if you want to see more about lasers, and if you want to see me talk about things like X-Laser's Mercury and show some more laser programming. Also, big shout out and thanks to X-Laser for providing the Caliente Aurora for this video. It is a huge help, and they also gave us some great clips that you saw throughout this video. Until then, guys, we will see you in the next video here, of course, only if you're subscribed. Thanks a lot.